Suppose you were going to tailor a suit for somebody. Is there anything you'd like to know about that person before you proceeded to cut and snip? What about the dimensions of the individual, the measurements? What about that person's preferences? What about whatever it is the person intends to do in that particular garment? You see the point. The size, the shape, the preferences will make a difference in how you proceed in the development of the suit. And the same thing is true for instruction. The more we know about the intended audience of the instruction, the better able we are to match the instruction to the needs of the individual student, and the better able that instruction will be to accomplish its mission. But there's another reason why the target pop description is important, and that is that it helps us to set the starting place of the instruction. It helps us to subtract from what students need to know and be able to do what they already know and can do, and thereby derive the curriculum for each student. How many times have you sat in a classroom saying to yourself, gosh, I already know this, why can't we get on with it? So that's why it's important to match instruction to the characteristics of the intended audience. So what if you do know about your target population? What difference would it make? What variables might it influence in the development and in the delivery of the instruction? Well, there are several. First off, it might influence the language that you use. Look, here's some instructions for filling out your 1040 and other exciting tax forms. Would this language work for your target audiences, for your students, for your trainees? If you don't know, maybe you need to find out more about the target audience before developing instruction for them. Examples are influenced by knowledge of the target population. Think about the last course you were in. Would golf examples have worked? What about examples from nuclear physics? What about examples from that use mathematical models? What about examples from the kitchen? Would they have worked with that target population? The starting place of instruction is also influenced by the target pop description, as I already mentioned. The delivery system, the mechanism by which we deliver the instruction to the student. For example, if the students are poor readers, then we would say to ourselves while organizing the delivery system, okay, what we want to do is minimize the number of printed words with which the student is faced. We don't want the printed word to become an obstacle to the learning. So we would try to select media combinations that minimized the use of the printed word to the degree possible. Finally, instructor behavior might be influenced by the nature of the target population. You know, there are subcultures in this country who find it a gross mark of disrespect to be looked in the eye, and yet instructors are constantly bleating at one another, eye contact is important, you've got to have eye contact. Well, maybe that's all right for a WASP population, but not for everybody. And if they don't know their target population, they may generate some cultural dissonances and make it very difficult for those trainees to learn in that kind of environment. Now, how do we do this? A good target pop description will run anywhere from 2 to 6 pages. If it's shorter than 2 pages, your developers don't yet know enough about their intended students to begin developing. So what you do is you write down everything you think you know about the target population without organizing it and without worrying about whether it's going to be useful information. Because one thing that you write down will cause you to think of something else that you know, and will also cause you to think of some gaps, some things you don't know, which may then cause you to get on the telephone or to interview one or more of the intended students. What information might a target population description contain? Well, it might contain a number of things, but it ought to include the age range, the sex distribution, the interests of the student. What moves them? You know, what do they do in their spare time? What hobbies do they have? That will tell you something about the kinds of examples to use. It will tell you something about how to motivate the students. What about need gratifiers? What moves them? Why do they work? Is it for money? Is it for recognition? Is it for prestige? Is it for power? It would be useful to know those things because it will be helpful in the development and the delivery. What do they already know? What kinds of experiences have they had that will make a difference in the starting place? That may also tell you something about the examples that might be appropriate. What about their physical characteristics? Now, when we say physical characteristics here, we're seldom talking about physical handicaps, though occasionally we are. We're talking about things like this. What shape are they in when they come into the classroom? Are they bright and bushy-tailed, or is this an evening class after a hard day's work where everybody is fatigued and working hard to stay awake and to stay interested? So those are the kinds of things that you would write down in a target pop description. And each one of the things you write down may trigger thoughts about something else. Finally, how do you use it? Well, what you do is you keep the target population description handy during the development of the instruction so that you can ask it questions as you develop. You develop a lesson or a unit of instruction and you go to the target pop description and say, well, what about these examples? Can I use this example? Will it work? Will this particular language work? What do they already know about this topic? Will they be able to handle the media I've selected? What about the cultural customs? What do I need to know in order to prevent unnecessary obstacles from popping up between the student and the learning? You see, the more questions like that I can answer during the development, the fewer changes I have to make during and after the instructional tryouts. So you see, the target population description should exert a strong influence on how the instruction is developed. The more you know and the more you use the description during the development, the fewer changes you're going to have to make after the tryouts. And the more your developers know about the target population, the better they will be able to match the instruction to your students' needs.